In order to tell you a little bit about my path as an alumnus and an architect, let me start at Cooper, where my formal education began. I was at Cooper from 1977 to 1984, taking part in all three schools. But I graduated from the architecture program, which was run with an iron fist by John Hejduk. His pedagogy was based on the work and writings of Le Corbusier, probably the most influential architect of the 20th century. You see the imprint of Corbu, the crow, in Hejduk's renovation of the foundation building, literally in the walls of the foundation building. All those white walls and columns with the occasional curve thrown in, the grid, the columns, the curves, that's what they were teaching in the architecture school. The 9-square grid program, their emphasis on the elements of architecture, the architectonics, were all the basis of the education. By the time my generation of Cooper architecture students came around, there were the first cracks in the pedagogy and rumblings of discontent with this approach to architecture and architectural education. The 80s were a time of many changes, even revolutionary changes in epistemology. Hejduk said we were the most difficult class, even the worst class he ever had to deal with, though I'm sure they got worse as the times wore on. By the time we graduated, he called us monsters. He said that to Peter Eisenman, another famous architect and one of our professors of that time. Part of the New York Five, as they were called. In an article I wrote in Progressive Architecture, which was the leading architecture magazine at the time, I quipped that the Cooper faculty saw themselves as a priesthood of cognoscenti who built white and wore black. They were so dogmatic that they practiced what I called martial architecture. My name, much of our class, was mud amongst that priesthood by the time we left. But I didn't care. I had discovered what was important to me in architecture. It wasn't post-Corbusian modernism and even less his absurd urbanism. It was the relationship between our built environment and our well-being as people. I spent the next 20 years as a carpenter, builder, a traveler, and an adventurer, continuing my education in natural building and natural healing and all of what that meant. I designed projects and I built them. 20 years later, I returned to academia for post-professional graduate studies at the University of Texas at Austin. I found a very different approach to education and manners, the very place where John Hejduk had taught before Cooper and developed his 9-square grid program. I wrote my thesis on the relationship between beauty in architecture and human well-being. It turns out it's a fascinating subject, beauty, but this is the last crowd I'd have to tell that to. It's ingrained, I think, in the artist to understand that. I've always tried to be an architect that creates or helps create living spaces, not spaces to just live in, but spaces that themselves emanate life and support us in our lives. Natural materials, light, vibration, beauty, non-toxic, vibrant spaces to flourish in that meets the earth on the earth's terms. Not a machine for living in, as Le Corbusier wanted, but something greater, more fundamental to who we are and what we need. The final words of my thesis read, "Architects can contribute to societal well-being, not merely as object makers, but as participants, experts in environmental transformation who recognize and understand the cultural codes and deep structures of beauty. Participation in the production of beauty is one of life's rewards." After graduate school, I stayed in and around Austin, Texas, and started my current firm. I designed mostly custom homes, but also some light industrial projects, healing centers, and retreats. I started an organic farm, garden, and ranch outside of Austin, fulfilling a lifelong dream and ambition of living a mostly self-sustaining life on the land. I don't know where the future will take us, but I hope to continue in the production of beauty in whatever way I can. Thank you.